You've got big projects to tackle, but your day gets swallowed up by repetitive tasks and constant inquiries. It's hard to make progress when you're stuck putting out fires. That's where Element 451's AI assistants come in. Acting like an extra set of hands, you get your time back for the high-impact projects. Ready to reclaim your time? Visit element451.com/AI team to learn more.
Welcome to AI for You, the go-to podcast for higher ed professionals looking to integrate AI into their daily work. I'm your host, Brian Piper, the Director of Content Strategy and Assessment at the University of Rochester. Join me every other Thursday for practical uses of AI within higher education communications, marketing, and student engagement. We'll focus on ways to quickly integrate AI into your teams to increase your efficiency and effectiveness and help you optimize your workflows and processes. I'll interview experts and feature relevant use cases with the goal that every episode gives you at least one thing you can take away and start leveraging in your job today. AI for You is a part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. Welcome to AI for You. Today's use case is all about repurposing your content. We create so much content in higher ed, and so much of it, even the high-performing stuff, often just sits on the channel it was created for and fades into obscurity. One of the things that AI does best is taking existing content and repurposing it for different channels, different formats, and different audiences. So let's say you have a high-performing news story or blog article on your website. You can go to ChatGPT and ask it to take that existing content and rewrite it as a social post for LinkedIn or as a video script for Reels or TikTok, and then to target that new content for a different audience. So maybe now you're trying to focus on attracting potential undergraduate students or potential faculty or even existing staff with this new content that's relevant and focused on their needs or their problems and helps answer the questions that they want answers to. Or if you have a high-performing video on your YouTube channel, you can take that video and create a transcript of that and then use that as your source content for repurposing. As always, the full prompt will be in the show notes for this episode, along with a link to Christopher Penn's RACE framework for prompting, which is my current favorite and the most effective model that I've found yet. On today's episode, I have the pleasure of talking with Jaime Hunt. I've been listening to Jaime for years on her podcast, Confessions of a Higher Ed CMO. After a 20-year career in higher education, including 9 years as the Chief Marketing Officer at Old Dominion University, Jaime recently launched Solve Higher Ed Marketing, where she shares her passion for building brands, telling stories, and leading with empathy. Let's jump right in. Well, Jaime, thank you so much for joining me on my show.
I am so happy to be here and so honored to be one of your first guests. This is going to be an amazing podcast.
Well, when I knew I was going to be asking people about AI in higher ed, I couldn't think of anybody better than you to have on and talk about. I know you've done a lot of consulting. I know you did a lot when you were at Old Dominion with AI, and really just interested to get your thoughts. And so jumping right into it, what are some of the more creative, interesting uses that you've seen of AI within the higher ed landscape?
Yeah. So one of the coolest things that I've seen, and it's not marketing related, but I think it's marketing adjacent. Ivy Tech Community College has been using AI to identify at-risk students earlier in the semester. So I don't exactly know how it works on the back end, but what they're doing is identifying students that are at risk of failing a class and then doing personalized outreach to those students. And it's really had some dramatic impact on their student success and retention. By the end of the first semester where they piloted it, about 3,000 students were prevented from failing, and 98% of those achieved at least a C. So we had students who may have ended up dropping out of college altogether, who ultimately were able to stay in college at least for another semester and get that much closer to a degree. So I think that you know how passionate I am about retention and graduation rates and how I think higher ed needs to be really focused on those things. So for me, that's just a really tremendous use case. And it really shows the power of AI to have a transformative impact on an institution.
Yeah, for sure. It's not just about like helping us do, our work better or automating our tasks. I think really like digging into preventative, like looking ahead and planning ahead and seeing these opportunities. I think that's such a great application and something that's so desperately needed in higher ed. That's fantastic. It's interesting. We talk a lot about the fear of AI replacing our jobs or, taking things away from us. But I think being able to look at large amounts of data or things that are happening across the campus that we don't have the resources to be monitoring all of those things. I think that's such a smart use case. And I love the fact that it's not specifically marketing. We find so many opportunities to leverage like practical AI uses from other domains. I mean, we came up with the idea of doing our virtual personas through our business school that was doing virtual TAs. So I think being aware of what other people are doing across the campus is so critical.
I agree. I think about how we can take big data sets and analyze that data in a matter of seconds or minutes and get visualizations of that data. And you can take student data and really pin down what majors are more likely to enroll in this graduate program and target your communications to them. You can use data to kind of figure out who's actually opening and your emails and what characteristics they have and better target your communications that way. I think one of the coolest ways I've seen marketers use AI is actually my husband, Dave Hunt in ODU Global, was using it to build out quickly program pages that had information about, what kind of careers can you get with this degree? What's the global outlook for this degree? And then he was actually creating videos and having the scripts written by AI, of course, edited and fine-tuned by him, and then popping those into Pictory and having Pictory create videos that could go on these program pages. And then I think he might have been using Suno for creating the voiceovers for those videos. So it's like the whole nuts to bolts of a program page being created in AI is like those program pages. You might tell somebody this is going to take us months or a year to get all our program pages done, and then to get videos for every program page. That's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. So that's probably the coolest use case I've seen of using AI in a marketing context.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, and so much of that work isn't work that needs a lot of creative. It doesn't need a lot of storytelling, but it needs to be consistent. It needs to be representative. So you can do AI is really good at doing that sort of work.
Absolutely.
When you're working with different institutions, there are a lot of challenges to integrating AI into your workflows, into your processes. How do you usually recommend that people get started with this technology and using these tools?
Yeah. So usually when people ask me, what do? I say, I think you need to get your whole team to have a base level understanding of what the tools can do. And whether you do that by bringing somebody in to do a boot camp or having people go to a conference or having everybody take a Coursera course or fill in the blank. But having everybody have that baseline, I think is really helpful, because otherwise you have a situation where you have some people using it and others not, but you also have a situation where there isn't that synergy and that collaboration across the team of, I'm using it for this, what are you using it for, and building upon each other. And I also really recommend that people be encouraged to keep the tools open in their browsers all the time, to kind of remind them that they're there to use, right? I remember my AVP, Amber Kennedy, said like, her biggest challenge was remembering that it was there to use. So it's like, just have a window open, or if you have dual monitors or whatever, having it open reminds you that those tools are there to use. And I think once people get in the habit of using them, they get more and more sophisticated with how they're using them, which is ultimately the goal, I think, as a leader.
Yeah, and that collaboration is so critical. Just having those conversations, because everybody uses these tools in different ways. And they ask the tools different things. And I think just understanding some of the different use cases and some of the different nuances that people are using, whether it's in their prompt or, the specific processes that they're getting from the tools. I think it's so critical to be talking among each other and saying, well, what are you doing? And how are you doing this? And how'd you get that result? And because we are still learning. Everybody is still learning what these tools can do. Even the engineers that built these tools don't really even know what these tools can do. And I think the opportunities for learning really come so much from just getting in there and starting to play with it. And so many people that I talk to put one prompt into ChatGPT and they don't get anything useful out of it, so they just dismiss it. Great advice to have it open, have it there.
I hear all the time from people who say exactly what you said. Like, I tried it once and it gave me nothing. And so I stopped. And you wouldn't tell an intern who gave you not desirable work on their first try, you wouldn't be like, oh no, we're not going to use this intern anymore. Go home. You'd work with it. It's called ChatGPT. Like, obviously there's other tools, but it's called ChatGPT. Chat with it. Tell it what it did wrong. Help it learn what you're looking for. Use it the way it intended to be used. And probably if it did something that wasn't useful to you, it's probably your prompt wasn't very good. So fine tune how you prompt and take some classes or do some reading about prompting, and that will help as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, it's Mallory. Element 451 is hosting the AI Engage Summit on October 29th and 30th. This free virtual event brings together leaders, innovators, and many of your favorite Enrollify creators to explore AI's impact on student engagement, enrollment marketing, and institutional success. We're packing the schedule with real examples and case studies, so you leave knowing how to harness AI to drive meaningful change at your institution. Whether you're looking to enhance student outcomes, optimize enrollment marketing, or simply stay ahead of the curve, the AI Engage Summit is your gateway to the next level of higher education innovation. Registration is free. Visit element451.com to save your spot. Now, back to the show.
Well, when you look at institutions that are trying to, they've got some people who are like enthusiasts about the technology, and they're trying to figure out how to start spreading this across the broader institution, integrating it more into their, departments and teams. What are some of the biggest challenges that you see?
I think for me, what I see the most is people who are skeptical of AI and people who are worried it's going to take over their job. And that's been my experience both when I was inside higher ed and now that I'm doing workshops and consulting around AI. Is there's people who are like, this is cheating, this is somehow going to make my job go away. And I think that's a legitimate concern because there's a lot of hype about that. But I honestly think that if you take the time to learn the tools, you're making yourself so much more marketable in the long run and setting yourself up for actual job growth versus job disappearance, for lack of a better word. And so if you can help people overcome some of those concerns And then I often hear ethical concerns. Like I said, like this feels like cheating, or it's pulling from things like Midjourney is pulling from images that other people created and pulling them in. And I understand that, but I think that folks can still use tools like this and not use them in ways that make them feel uncomfortable, but still work them into their workflows in ways that they do feel comfortable with. And that's something like you don't have to use AI to generate content. You can use AI to analyze data. You can use AI to brainstorm, fill in the blank. And if you're uncomfortable with using it for content creation, that's cool. That's fine. Use it for a different purpose. And I think you'll find there's a lot of benefit to it beyond content creation.
Yeah, absolutely. And people get so bogged down. And I mean, there certainly are ethical issues. There are ethical things to consider. I often say that these tools can do a lot of things. It's up to us to decide what they should do. I think we need to make sure that we are keeping our humanity involved in our content and in our marketing. We're trying to authentically connect with, our audiences. And you have to be careful about where you bring in AI and that you're transparent about using the technology when you do use it, so that you're not trying to hide it from somebody or surprise people with the fact that you're using the technology. What other sorts of tools besides ChatGPT do you like to use?
The number one tool that I use besides ChatGPT is Midjourney. I do so many presentations, and I want to have graphics that are customized for the school's colors. Like if I'm going to Boise State to give a presentation, I want to use their colors. If I'm going to Virginia Tech, I want to use their colors in the presentation. Now imagine going into like stock images and searching for illustrations and then having to go in Photoshop and like manually change the color scheme or whatever. It's not going to happen. So because I do so many presentations, Midjourney is the number one tool that I use besides ChatGPT. And I think there's a very, very, very steep learning curve with Midjourney. Even understanding how to get into Midjourney and get onto a Discord server and all of that, for someone who's never done it before, I think can be really challenging. But I think the power of what you can create with it is just absolutely mind-blowing. And I have a lot of fun playing with it.
And the amount of time that, like you said, that we'd have to spend looking for stock images or making sure that they're rights approved, especially depending on where you're doing the presentation or how that's working, saves so much time just being able to just go in and just ask for the image that you need.
Yeah. Well, I'm doing a presentation on busting silos. It's a keynote opener to a brand camp. And it's like I have 20 slides or something like that. And there's different silos on every slide, right? Imagine trying to dig up 15 different silo illustrations and then have them be in the school colors, and being able to say, like, I want a picture of silos on a college campus with students walking, and have the campuses have columns because the campus I'm doing this on has columns, or have the campus look very technical because the campus is a technical campus or whatever. You can't do that. And it takes, a minute for Midjourney to create an image. And then you get to go back and forth with it, just like with ChatGPT, to refine it and get it to be exactly what you want. And it's so much fun and such a time saver in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think that's one of the things that we need to remember when we're using these tools. And I mean, you can spend a lot of time playing with these tools and experimenting with these tools, but it's important to really figure out where it's going to help your workflows, where it's going to reduce your time spent on certain projects, or where it's going to, make you more effective or more efficient in your workflows.
Absolutely.
What do you think is next on the horizon in the AI development? I mean, what do you think things are going to look like in 6 months from, what you're hearing from these different AI companies?
Yeah, I think that AI is going to be embedded more and more into the tools we're already using every day. So I think the days of logging into ChatGPT or Claude or fill in the blank Those are the two that are my favorite in terms of general use and content creation, or even logging into a Discord server or whatever. I think those days are pretty limited. I think there's going to be a point where you're in Canva and you're designing. And right now, Canva's not at the Midjourney level for image generation, but I think it will be, where you're just like, for this presentation, generate me, 20 different silos on a college campus images, or fill in the blank. I think it's going to be in Word. I think it's going to be, it's already, Photoshop already has the skill sets, but in design, I think that we're probably, maybe not in 6 months, but in a year to a year and a half, the tools are going to be embedded into everything. And then you're really going to be ahead of the curve if you already know how to use AI, right? Like if you've been learning about how to do prompts and learning about how to really leverage the tools, when they're in there, you're still going to need that knowledge, right? And so I think if you've been taking that on and spending the last 2 years or starting today, learning those skills, I think it will really help you maximize your use of tools like that. CRMs are going to need to have it embedded. I mean, it's going to be in everything, I think. You already see it. You go on LinkedIn and it's like, let AI write this post for you. And I'm like, no, thank you. But it's already starting. And I think it's going to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not going away. We know that for sure. So we might as well figure out how to start embracing it.
Yes.
So I always finish off by asking my guests what AI specific use cases are helping you the most in your business and in your work.
Yeah. So like I mentioned, Midjourney to help me create presentations. I am still playing around with what AI tool is going to best help me with like my bookkeeping and all of that. I'm very, very bad at it. I have a pile of receipts that I need to do something with for this business. But I think for me, the data analysis where I'm able to like download my data from MailChimp and do some analysis around it, that has been really, really helpful. Using ChatGPT as a brainstorming partner, I don't have coworkers now. So ChatGPT and Claude are my coworkers. And I can like kind of say, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? And what other ideas? What am I missing? I upload the presentations I'm giving often to ChatGPT along with the session description and say, what did I miss in this? And ChatGPT usually will tell me so many things. I'm like, okay, well, this would be a 3-hour presentation. But having like a brainstorming partner and a work checker right by my side all the time, that's honestly what I use it the most for right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they are really the best assistants. They're always there. And, it's the same thing for AI chatbots. I mean, obviously, you don't want to use those to replace human customer service representatives for everything. At some point, you're going to need that human engagement. But they are so great at answering questions in the hours where you don't have a human available and just being always there, always ready. So, well, that's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Jaime. This has been such a great conversation and really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to listen to this podcast every other week. It's going to be amazing.
Wow. So many great insights from this conversation with Jaime. I loved her examples of Ivy Tech Community College using AI to help with student retention by identifying students having difficulty as soon as possible. And then Old Dominion building out program pages with individual customized videos and voiceovers. That would normally be such a huge project with such overhead and resource requirements that it probably wouldn't get approved. And they were able to do it in a fraction of the time with almost no additional resources. There are so many ways to use these tools to help us be more effective and more efficient in our jobs, but I really like hearing about the ways this technology can provide real value to our users and help them face their problems and challenges. And it all starts with us looking for ways to dive into these tools, to start experimenting and exploring and figuring out where they fit into our workflows and processes and what they can do. Please reach out to me with unique ways that you're integrating AI into your professional and personal lives. And as always, blue skies and keep creating. Thank you for listening to another episode of AI for You. I hope you found at least one useful thing you can take away and start adding to your workflows and processes today. Remember, the key to making the most of AI is to keep experimenting, keep learning, and of course, keep creating. AI for You is a part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to become a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed professionals find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Artis Kadu, Day Kibbles, Shane Baglini, and so many other of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.